Rachel from PencilStash. Yeah. Today we're going to be coloring a page from Johanna Bamford's Enchanted Forest adult coloring book. This particular page is full of lots of opportunities for blending and fun colors. Let's head over to my desk and we'll get started. So let's start with this leaf over here in the corner. I'm going to use several different greens, and let's start here in this bottom corner with the lightest of them. Just the tip there, and just kind of use like medium pressure. And then I'm going to take a little bit more of an apple green and just use these kind of circular motions to get into all of the crevices here. And I'm going to overlap onto that lighter green over the tip there that I did first. And then I'm going to take this a little bit darker green and go in here on the corners, and again making sure to overlap using really nice light pressure. Oh, I'm going to go back in here with this green. And again, just really nice light pressure, little circular motion so that you're not tempted to press too hard. Lots and lots of overlap so that when you finally use that blender pencil, that'll blend together really nicely. I'm going to take a really dark green to just kind of go over these edges a little bit. Anywhere where you think that there might be a little bit of shadow, maybe some folded over edges, and then even kind of go over just a couple of areas here with this brown, just to make it look nice and authentic. Now I'm going to take my fabulous blender pencil. You can get these at the craft store or at your art supply center, Amazon, anywhere for just a couple bucks. And I'm gonna just, again with medium pressure, just kind of blend them all together so that they dance real nice together. And then I'll just kind of speed up the rest so that you can just kind of see that I use the same technique over all these other leaves. And you want to vary where you put your color so that they all look very natural and not just carbon copies of each other. All right, now we're going to move on to the mallard in the middle. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite kind of neutral bases, which is the PrismaColor Ginger Root color. It's just a nice light kind of beige color. And I'm just going to go along and just give him a nice foundation. And then we'll kind of fill in as we go. I'm going to use a whole bunch of colors on him too, just to make sure that he's got that nice dimensional look. And then let's take one of the little bit darker browns. And let's go again anywhere we kind of see like maybe a shadow being cast, or where his feathers might be a little bit darker. A little bit in these corners, and just with really nice light pressure. I think the biggest thing that you can take away from one of my videos is don't press too hard. It kind of backs you into a corner a little bit. You'll have a lot more control over where you place the color and a lot more flexibility with your blending if you just use a nice light-handed approach. Just getting these back tail feathers a little bit more. And then this water line, remember that excuse me, you know, the duck's body, half of it is under the water, so you know there's not going to be as much light under there, so we're going to want to color that. And I'm going to come back here with this darker brown, kind of go back into these corners just to give it even a little bit more dimension. Again, going to be shadowed there under those tail feathers, so we want to hit it with a little bit darker brown. And then I'm going to do this whole under the water section a little bit darker. And then take my blender pencil. Make sure it's nice and cleaned off. And just smooth these edges real nice. I usually like to start with the darker towards the lighter, just because I feel that that's where I get the best result. But really, I just encourage you to play and just see what happens. You can always start from the light and go towards the dark if you don't want so much of the dark to bleed into the light section. And then if you kind of go back and see that, you know, maybe you need just a little bit more, you can with a little darker brown there. Just give them a little bit more color variation. And then back over with the blender pencil. Since I've decided he's a mallard, he's going to have a nice, beautiful green head. Oh, but you know what? First, I want to go back in and just make a little bit darker areas here. Under the wing. And then again under that water line. And blend it once more. Now we're going to do the green head. And I've got a couple of colors here. One's like a darker green, kind of a grass green. One's kind of a peacocky blue color. And I just want to kind of do the middle section of his head here, so that wherever the light hits it, that's kind of where you want that lightest color. And then I'm going to go around with this darker green a little bit on his crown and on his neck. Bit of a blue color just to bring in more of that peacock color. It's an indigo blue. And then let's see, I'm just going to blend this to see what it looks like. do his beak. And we'll start with a nice bright yellow. Cute little ducky. And a little bit of a goldenrod color right there. And then a little bit of a brown. If you notice, ducks have a little bit of brown at the front of their beaks. And then I'm gonna just clean this up a little bit here. Now I'm going to take some navy blue and I'm just going to color these wing feathers just a little bit in kind of a pattern. Because if you see a real mallard, there's some like navy and white and gray, and they're all kind of overlapping here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this blue in there just to give the impression. Onto the cute little sailboat now, with the mushroom in the back. I'm going to start with that same ginger root color. Just again, give it a nice little foundation. This is kind of where I think that the light would be hitting the boat. So I'm just going to concentrate this ginger root color there. And then come back in with where I think that some shadow should be on either side of it. And then darker brown. Make a nice sharp line. Again, where all the shadow should be coming up from. Kind of down near that water line. Just a real thin line, because when I go to blend it, it'll expand a little bit. Think of it like eyeliner. And the mast here, I'm going to do two colors. From where I think that light should hit it up here, I've switched to a little bit of a lighter brown. And I've overlapped onto some of my darker colors. Just going back over, making sure I'm happy with that. I'm going to take my blender and I'm going to clean it off just to make sure that there's no residual color on it from the last time that I blended. You can do that either with just having like a scratch piece of paper there like I do, or you can sharpen it even if you need a finer point, but if you're going to sharpen it every time you want to clear off the tip, it's going to go a lot faster than if you just kind of clean it off. So gotten that nice and blended. Move over to the mast area. Should I do the sail next or the mushroom? Let's do the mushroom. Using a nice kind of pinky orange here. Leaving a little bit of white there at the top. It's hard to tell. Just a little bit, and then taking a little bit of a darker orange there at the bottom. Again, just kind of the way that the light would hit it. Color the base. And then for the sail, I'm going to use this gray, just to kind of give it a little bit of sense of 3 dimensions. And the illustrator's actually given me some reference points for where those darker kind of folds should be, so excuse me, you'll definitely want to kind of use those as your guide. And then you can blend it all together. All right, let's do these little paper fan kind of figures over here. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't know what they are, but they remind me of those little paper fans that I used to make as a kid. And for some reason, purple is speaking to me. So let's start with this real nice light lavender. And we're just gonna kind of go through and just make a nice little base. And you'll see I'm purposely leaving kind of the edges white, because when I come back in with my darker color, on these in particular, I just want a little bit of space where I haven't put that lavender. And you'll see why in a minute. Let's take this darker purple, and I'm gonna go in and not only on those white areas that I purposely missed, but a little bit of overlap onto that lavender, just so that I make sure that there isn't such a harsh line. Just gonna wanna kind of fill in those little areas all the way around the edges. And then I'm also going to take these little dashed lines that the illustrator's given me and just a little bit of a halo around that midpoint here where the fan would be folded. And then I'm going to take kind of a pinky fuchsia color. I'm just going to go really, really lightly over that whole midsection. And then I'm going to take this beautiful deep velvety purple and go just in the corners, just the outside corners. This is one of my favorite colors, and you'll notice that it's tiny, and I'm coveting every last little bit of it that I can. It was from a set of SpectraColor pencils that I had when I was a teenager, and they're just these beautiful velvet, smooth glide pencils. I swear my mom probably got them for $15 when I was a teenager, but they're just wonderful. And I've since tried to find them, and I can't find them anywhere. I don't think they make them anymore. I saw a set on eBay, used, like a used set on eBay, and they were going for a couple $100. So I don't know what makes these things so special, but I'm certainly keeping hold of the ones that I have left for as long as I can. And then let's take the blender pencil and fill in from darkest to lightest. And you'll see I'm just kind of getting in all those little spaces and then pulling it straight down to that midpoint. And it's just sort of blending beautifully there. Let's move now to this little egret in the corner, and we're going to use a couple of different grays on him. Now, I'd really like him to stand out as being white, but he needs a little bit of contrast. So I'm just going to take this really light, warm gray. Now, I have a set of grays that I got that are sort of differentiated into two different categories, warm and cool. And you can kind of play with them and see what they look like, but for these, I'm going to take some warm gray tones. And again, just using the lines that are kind of given to you. Just give a little bit of shadow and contrast here in the wingtips and under his belly and maybe back here under his neck. I'm just going to layer those together, being really, really light-handed. And starting with light and then moving my way down the grayscale. And again, he's going to read white, but just giving him a little bit of contrast will go a long way. And I'm going to take my blender pencil and clean off the tip. And just to kind of move these colors back and forth. Blend that all in nicely. Now I'm actually going to take my white pencil and go over the areas on him that should be white, just to give them a little bit of pop against what might be the white of the page. And then I'll do his beak and his legs in kind of a yellowy goldenrod color. And these are real thin, so make sure your pencil tip is nice and sharp. Need a little bit darker color up near his body, on his legs, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to do the same on his beak. And there is my little egret. Let's start on my little fishy friend here in the center. And something about him speaks to me as like a pinky red. So again, if you're thinking about your light source, you're thinking that he's probably going to be lightest on the top where the sun rays might hit him through the water. So let's make the top half of him a little bit of a light pink and the bottom half a darker pink. And I'm actually going to go over it with two different colors. And then I'm going to go over the top area with the half in mind with that same darker pink. And then I'm going to leave like a little bit of a white, it's kind of hard to tell, I know on the screen, but a little bit of a white line up at that top, kind of where the light would be hitting him. And I'm going to go in and do his fins. With these same great pinky red colors. And I'm going to take my blender pencil now and just kind of blend all of those together, going upwards. But again, just making sure that that thin white line up at the top there just kind of remains nice and light. And there you have him. All right, let's start on these little skeletons hidden in the rocks here. And I'm going to speed this up for you just a little bit. But I've started out with that same kind of ginger root base color. And I've started it just kind of in the middle of his face there. And I'm going around it with these warm gray colors. And again, just really light pressure. Because then you can always come back in and make it a little bit darker, but it's hard to work backwards if you've already applied too much pressure. Circular motions here, just kind of going up and along the sides and then maybe down the crown of his head. And then I'm going to take my blender pencil and see what it does. The nice thing about this is that you can kind of see where you land, and then you can kind of make some revisions after that if you're not quite happy with it. So I quite like him, so let's move on to this other little guy. And let's shadow the base of his skull here with a little bit of a darker gray. Again, a warm gray. It's got a little bit of brown tones in there. Then I'm going to take my darker gray and just shade it in a little bit more there. And just play. You'll find that this comes really nice and easy to you after you practice a little bit. And even if you want to kind of use Google to find some nice light references or skull references, you know, whatever might help you. And then this guy hidden in here, I'm going to color him a little bit more dark because he's really buried in there. Blend him in real nice too. There you have it. So the final stage I'm going to show you today is the water. And you'll see I've used a lot of different blues here. And I've used my lightest blue first off in a couple of different areas. So I just pointed to some. And again, you're just going to sort of start in these little light spots, and then you're going to build off of those lighter spots. So I'm going to go back in here with the darker. But you'll see wherever there's a light spot, in either direction, I've gone a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker. And I've purposely chosen to sort of do this like darky kind of peacock color here in the corners. And I'm just gonna real lightly go over this area. Wherever I feel that a dark spot needs to sort of either create shadow or an area where it might be a little bit muddy, where there's a lot going on, I'm going to put in a dark spot. And I'm going to overlap on some of the lighter colors that I've done just to make sure that it blends really nicely and there's not like a really harsh dark to light. So I'm going to come down here in the corner where all this foliage is, because I think that this is where some dark shadows would be. Again, right by this foliage here. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer to this. You're just going to have to play and see what comes out nicely. And again, using light pressure, you know, you can come back in and kind of manipulate what you've done if you're not quite happy. And I encourage you to use a lot of different values of blue here. It'll just kind of add to that dimensional watery quality instead of having it be one solid thought. You can hear my coloring companion barking in the background. The mailman must be here. Again, just kind of bring in this darker color here where some of this foliage is, around my little fishy friend. And then again here at the foliage where these rocks are and these little purple coral tendrils. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to take this light spot that I've kind of created in the middle, and I'm going to put some dark outline around it, just to highlight it a little bit more. Create some shadows where these fishies are. So now I'm going to take my blending pencil, and you'll see I'm going to go over all of my dark spots towards my light spots to make them blend. And you'll get that nice fluid watery effect. And if you see that sort of bottom row of water that the egret's standing on there, I've already blended that. And I've even gone in along some of those interior lines on the water and kind of outlined them a little bit with some of the dark blues and the teals. Again, just to highlight them a little bit more and give them a little bit more depth. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit more now, and you can watch the rest take shape. that's all from me today. I hope you liked what you just saw. If so, please give me the thumbs up and subscribe so that you can get my latest videos delivered right to your inbox. Also, don't forget to visit me on PencilStash.com, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks so much for watching today, and keep coloring! Bye!